Okay, I think we can get started. Just before Denise give us an introduction, I just want to remind everybody that this session is being recorded so that it can be made available for other people that will have the pleasure to watch it. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Carlo. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here and be part of this project presentation where we all worked in this conversation outside of COVID, a Twitter sentiment analysis. And as you know, this is an event that we run in collaboration with the Swiss Digital Days and also Lugano Living Lab and the city of Lugano and Franklin. So please, before I introduce the agenda, let me present our Dean Executive of Education, Carlo Giardinetti.
Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here and to introduce this project. Denise, can I give a brief introduction now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Excellent. So we're very happy and excited to share this with all of you because this project was born from some conversation a few months ago, exactly during COVID, when we started to reflect together with other colleagues at the Lugano Living Lab and at the city of Lugano within the university. And we started to think, as people are getting in the lockdown and in their homes and in their houses, how is this changing their way of communicating with the external world, the way of communicating among each other, the way of communicating with the city? And from there, we started to think of a few questions like, how can a citizen dialogue with the city administration in a year like 2020 and maybe in the future? And beside the traditional ways of communicating that the citizens have, we decided to explore one that perhaps is a less direct way, in a way that is the one through the social media. So if you think of that, when citizens use the social media, directly or indirectly, they are speaking to the city, for the city, to the canton in some way, and they do so much more often than sometimes we think. And this project is really about analyzing how citizens speak to their cities, sometimes indirectly through their tweets. Maybe they are not directly addressing the mayor or the administration, but they are speaking to the cities, and they're speaking to the cities manifesting their own emotions. And this is what this project is about. Every tweet has an emotion attached. We will try to show you that. So let's hear more about the intention of the project through the presentation of the master students from the Franklin University, Switzerland. And Denise, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Carlo. So before we present who we are, let me just quickly introduce the agenda of today that is going to take around 20 minutes. So I'm going to present to you who are the people behind this project. Then we have a quick introduction of the project Lugano tweets. Then my colleague Eleonora is going to share with you the research method we applied into this project. And then my colleague Christina and Alia are going to show you the analysis and the results we came up with this research. And then we will have some interactive session that we really would like to have your opinion, and please feel free to ask questions and share your ideas and your thoughts. And then we're gonna conclude the meeting. So who are the people behind this project? Now you can see just four of us, but yes, we are representing the master students for the Master of Science in International Management at Franklin University. We have all different backgrounds. We come from industry, from hospitality, consultancy, healthcare, technology, and our age range is between 22 and 36. We come from different countries: Italy, Switzerland, Finland, Spain, United States. So we are all worked together in this project. And yeah, I'm pleasure to represent my colleagues today. So let's start before moving to the research method that my colleague Eleonora is gonna share with you with more details why we are doing this. So as Carlo said, our main scope was to identify the main topics and main emotions of the cities and visitors of Lugano, with the idea to provide insightful data for the city of Lugano. And how we did it. So we ran a sentiment analysis based on the tweets in the period of time between January 2020 and September 2020. And we analyzed over 2,000 tweets. So I'm going to present you now my colleague Eleonora Risso that is going to share with you the research method we applied.
So now I will explain the research method we use to collect and analyze the data. So to collect the data, first we try to use Python to extract Twitter data automatically. But then we chose to extract the tweets manually. In practice, data ranges were assigned to the 17 students and each student analyzed about 100 tweets. In order to avoid analysis of messages, including COVID, we did like an advanced search that excluded COVID-19 virus and Corona. However, the hashtag Lugano and Ticino were included. How did we analyze the data instead? So first of all, we translated all the tweets. And second, we conducted a sentiment analysis manually. In other words, we assigned each tweet a category and a sentiment. And in fact, a sentiment analysis is the most common text classification tool, which analyzes a message focusing on the opinions and the emotion inside the message about a particular subject. And finally, we ran the tweets via the linguistic inquiry and word count. This is a text analysis program which calculates the degree to which various categories of words are used in a text. And the main reason we use this program is that it works explicitly on emotions and feelings, and that was one of our research goals. In fact, this program provided us with information on the type of language used and determined whether a message was positive or negative, and also the number of pronouns or the verbal tense. Here we can see the categories and the sentiments that we have formed based on reading tweets. They are the 4 categories and feelings chosen by us based on our analysis carried out manually and based on the keywords of the tweets that allowed us to choose the main feelings and the themes. And here you can see the 5 most discussed categories. So you can see that we have tourism, sport, public news, entertainment, and politics. So these are the 5 top categories. And we would like also to point out that during the presentation, we used personas for each category, and personas are identities of digital users that represent the behavior and the interests of real users.
So thank you, Eleonora, for sharing our research method. Of course, as part of any research method, challenges are part of the game. So here you can find the main 3 challenges we had to overcome during our project. And also probably the 3 main things you should take in consideration if you want to implement a similar project with your city or with your university. So the first one is Twitter changed the API, so we had to manually extract the tweets. The second one is that we couldn't use the geolocalization functionality of Twitter, so we basically used the hashtag Lugano and Ticino to identify the geographic area. And then the third one, there are probably potential code errors due to multiple researchers. As I said at the beginning, we have over 17 students that worked on that. Of course, if you would like to know more, at the end of this presentation, you will find some contact where you can reach out to us and ask more questions. And we will be more than happy to share more information and help you to find out what were exactly our technical challenges. So I'm going to move now. We are going to have an interactive session. So I will ask Carlo to share the main screen. So I ask you, all of you, please to go on menti.com and enter the code that we are going to show you. and we really would like to know your opinion. So let's start right now. Yeah, you can use your mobile phone or just the browser or the computer. Going to menti.com, you can enter the code 5224399.
Sorry, 393.
Yeah.
So as you are connecting with www.menti.com, please enter the code that you see there, 5224393. And here is the first question that we would like to hear your answer about. What topics were most important to you besides COVID between January and August of this year? And of course, we know that COVID somehow was linked to almost everything, all our life, and it still is. But in some way, we are trying to understand, instead of talking about the pandemic, what other things were were important to you?
And people are starting to write some answers. So interesting to see politics, travel, family, university, self-reflection. So thank you for sharing your main topics. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to see this wordle coming together. A very interesting family, becoming bigger, mental health, of course, entertainment, and politics. This is interesting also for us because it's part of the study that we will see later. It's been to try and identify what were the topics that were explored the most, at least through the tweets. Okay, so this is a great snapshot. If we move to the next question, next question is specific, trying to understand how do you normally interact in a digital way? So which digital platforms do you use to share information and voice your opinions? So this is, you can choose more than one.
Yeah, this is showing all the people are connected into this event or which digital platform they are mainly using. So it seems right now that Instagram is the most famous one, and TikTok, nobody apparently is using TikTok. Oh, someone. Yeah. Okay. Then I would say, yeah, based on what we are seeing right now, Instagram and LinkedIn are the main digital platform that people are using to share their opinion, and just 9% of Twitter. So,
and that, of course, this is, like you said, is not representative of the population of Ticino or of Switzerland, but it could be representative of, let's say, a younger segment of the population. I can see a lot of students and younger participants in this room. And Instagram seems to be the dominant, at least for this particular segment. And finally, the third question, only 9% looked like in the previous slide would use the Twitter to voice their concern, but our question is very specific on Twitter. Have you tweeted in the last 6 months? Again, this is only people in this room, in this virtual room.
It seems that the one that didn't use Twitter are the majority.
Yeah.
But yeah, we found many tweets, so someone is tweeting on Twitter.
Absolutely. Good. Okay, so this is enough for the first 3 questions. Over to you again, Denise.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on now on the categories. On the analysis and result we identified. So my colleague Elia, is gonna start presenting the result for the tourist category. Thank you, Elia.
Exactly, thank you. So now we're coming to the interesting part, to the juicy parts of our findings. the 5 main categories that we identified and also on which we did the sentiment analysis. So now here on this slide, you can see a so-called word map, which shows, if we look at all the tweets in the tourism category, which words were mainly used. So you see almost all of them had Ticino in it. So the bigger a word it is, the more it was used, and the smaller it is, the less it was used in the tweet. So you see visit, Alps, sun, hotel, lake, view. So I think it's very much relatable to the tourism category. And since we did a sentiment analysis, it shows also how were these tweets, in which emotion were they written. So if we have a look at all the tweets in the tourism industry, or in the tourism category, sorry, you see that almost 37% of the tweets were tweeted in a happy way, and 22% were in an informative way, and some other emotions were less present. This is quite an interesting slide. This slide is showing how the emotions changed during this period of time. So you see on the bottom line there, like the months in which we did the analysis, and how many percentages of the tweets were in these emotional categories. So I would like to point out 2 of them. So if you have a look at the green line, which is the happy line, you see that the many tweets were, 50% of the tweets were written in a happy way in the beginning of the year. This maybe is connected. People were coming out of their winter holidays. They just started a new year. And then it went a little bit down. So it dropped to 27%, and then it went up again. And what happened then from March to April, COVID started here in Switzerland, and you can see that it dropped very much. So that's quite an interesting insight from the tweets we analyzed. And then I would like to point out another one, the red line, which is on the very bottom. You see in the first 3 months, nobody tweeted a nostalgic tweet. And then again, COVID happened. And in this period, from March to April, it rose from 0 to 22%. So it can be that people were thinking, oh, how nice would it be now in Lugano again? How nice would it be on a holiday? Just that you get a little feeling for how these tweets look like. So if we have a look at these happy tweets, you see the first one here on the left is somebody who is tweeting that Italy and Switzerland combined are making up Ticino, which is the best combination. Or somebody else who's tweeting on the right here about the Vezzasca Valley and the bungee jumping, and uses these words, it was crazy, wow, which indicates the happiness of these tweets. If you have a look at some nostalgic tweets here on the left, you can see somebody is longing to visit Ticino and is speaking about that they usually would soak up the sun right now. Or somebody else who's talking about here on the right about paragliding, and that Ticino is a hidden gem in a nostalgic way. So now we're coming to the next category, which Cristina will introduce you to.
The next category is sports. And as my colleague Eleonora was telling you, one of the things that we have done to present this data is to create personas, marketing personas, not to sell the product, but to make easier to understand who could be the potential people tweeting those tweets. In the sports category, we thought that Luca, who is 34 years old and is from Ticino, from Lugano, could be one of our personas. He works in IT and he uses Twitter daily. He doesn't post all the time. He reads more than posts. But when he tweets in particular about football and hockey. He's a Lugano hockey fan and also a fan of La Juve. He doesn't follow the Swiss Premier League as much. He follows more the Italian league. And for example, we have here one of the tweets that he could potentially have tweeted during this time is with the derby of Lugano Hockey Club and Ambri. And as you see, it was during the coronavirus period and the stadium was empty. And he's tweeting the hockey in the times of COVID. So that's one of the tweets that we saw. In the category of sports, we saw mainly two types of tweets. Tweets that were related to sport events or sports information, like maybe new, for example, the first tweet on top that talks about how the Lugano Football Club was taking a new player, or it's the one on the bottom talks about the derby for hockey with Lugano and Ambri. And there are other sport tweets that relate to personal sport, like people when they are doing sport on their own time. For example, hiking, the one with the Parcocciani, the picture with the Parcocciani is about a new running route. The one with the picture of Lugano is about a hiking route. So those are people tweeting about their own personal sports experiences. Then in sport, we have 5 main subcategories. The main one, most of the tweets that we got were from football, and the second one was hockey. All the other categories were mostly for the second subcategory that I was talking to you about, like when people play their practice sport on their own. So we have running, we have hiking, we have tennis, we have stand-up paddle, biking, and we found that 1% of tweets that were related to equal pay in sports. And even though this is not they were not the most relevant tweets, we thought that it was interesting to include this category in the presentation because it was something that was discussed during this time of COVID. And on the sentiment analysis, we identify something that's how we interpret it. We thought that when people tweet about the sports that they are doing, most of the feelings are happy or positive in general. For example, all the tweets related to hiking, the one in purple, were 100% happy. Whereas tweets to other sports, for example, football, which is the blue one, or hockey, which is the red one, had other different feelings. Like it could be happy, but it could also be informative or narrative, or it could be nostalgic. And yeah. And now my colleague Elia is going to talk to you about the entertainment tweets.
Right, so the first 2 categories, so tourism and sport, we explained them to you quite extensively, so quite in depth. For the further few categories that we are going to explain you, we're going to make it a little bit quicker because we applied the same methodology, but we don't have to explain them as extensively. So the next one is entertainment. If it comes to entertainment, we excluded sports because it's such a big category on its own. And if we talk about entertainment, we mean art, we mean film, and we mean music. So once again, we're going to start with a persona that you can grasp it a little bit better, who could write a tweet like this. And our persona in the entertainment category is Gabriel Cavicchia. He's 67 years old and he's a lawyer. He really likes art. He finds comfort and solidarity in the arts. And he feels like that art can inspire hope and helps to look towards a better future. So here is an example tweet. It's written, Lugano has kicked off the open air exhibition, Words That Cure, where he's using the 2 hashtags, La Cultura Cura and Distanti ma Vicini. He's referring here to the COVID time where people are very distant physically, but they're still close throughout the art and entertainment. Now, once again, we're coming to the subcategories and the emotions in the art category. You see here, we have these 4 subcategories. We have art exhibits, we have film festivals, we have music and dance, and we have posts expressing a hopeful future. And right beyond, you can see the emotions in which these tweets were made. So you see in art exhibits, most of the tweets were informative or nostalgic. Then we have the film festivals, which are informative and interested. And then we have some happy tweets, music and dance, and post expressing a hopeful future. Once again, 2 example tweets. The one on the bottom left, you can see it's a group of young children singing a song, bringing people together, which will be a happy tweet in the music and dance sector. Or we have the one on the bottom right about the Van Gogh exhibition, which was in Lugano, which is about art exhibit and an informative one. Now we're coming to the next category again.
So politics is the next category. We identified a persona for politics, which is Paolo Bianchi. He's an engineer and is always working to find innovative solutions in Ticino. He's 46 years old. And here we have one of the tweets that he could have tweeted. He was referring about when there are many springs in Ticino. Why don't we create some more storage basins? Or also when it rains so much, like how could we improve this? So that was one of the tweets that he could have posted. In politics, there are 4 subcategories or 4 more things that were more tweeted about. We are talking about the period that was between January and August this year. One of the most important topics in politics, more discussed topics in politics, was Brexit. And it was mostly done, always since Lugano, with an informative or compassionate feeling and sentiment. Then the 3 other topics were communal elections, federal council, and infrastructure. Communal elections were informative, but also had mixed emotions. We found several emotions inside that, and we think that that's what, because it's probably something that touches the citizens of Lugano a little bit more. Whereas on the federal council level, it was mainly happy, but also annoyance. And on the infrastructure level, there was informative and interesting. On the geographical coverage, we could see that mainly almost 75% of the tweets were related to Swiss politics, either cantonal, federal, or communal level. And the other 25-30% was internationally. But this was also an important, interesting point. Out of these 30%, 8% of the tweets were related to Italian politics. And that makes sense since we are in Ticino. It could be like being so close to Italy. It's the Italian politics are always interesting for the people that live in Lugano. And then the second category was Europe and international. And my colleague Elia will explain the category of public news.
Exactly. So this is our last category that we're going to talk about. It's about public news. And we're going to start again with a persona. This persona here is Alice Rossi. She's 32 years old and a dental hygienist and community leader. And she usually reads the news every morning before going to the office. And that one day she saw this scandal that was happening in Coop and she tweeted, "Are you bananas?" Takes an entirely new meaning. Cocaine was found in a Coop's incoming shipment of bananas. The public news, here on the bottom left, you see the tweet with the bananas about this scandal that happened. Just to give you an insight of some other topics in the public news, a lot of things we're talking about were speed checks. As you know, Ticino is a very beautiful place to drive through, and it's very easy to forget how fast you're allowed to drive or not. So that's why many people tweet about it. Then we have the International Noise Awareness Day, or people tweeting about social responsibility for dogs. Like last month, for example, you remember when there was this blue algae in the lake, which was dangerous for dogs.
Okay, so now we can move to the interactive session. We decided to write some other questions. We would like to hear your opinion. And so let me show Ricardo our screen. Yeah.
All right. So let me go into presenting mode here. Okay, so let's start with, of course, if any of you have questions on the presentation, like Denise said already at the beginning, feel free to contact us, and I think you will have an email, some email address as well in the last slide. So, but meanwhile, we wanna hear more about some of the questions that are relevant to this project. So if we start with the first one, and again, for those who have joined later, just you can go to www.menti.com and then you can enter the code 5224393 to answer these questions. So this is a statement. I use social media much more after COVID-19 has started. And it goes from I strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree. We can see a median somewhere
We
there.
have an average right now.
Yeah. So it's quite balanced in the present people here. Again, it could be that with having a young audience in this call, in this room, there was quite an intensive use of social media before, throughout and after the COVID. Interesting. Okay. Any comment, Denise or Eleonora, Lia, Cristina?
Yeah, I think as you said, probably that this is not reflecting the entire population in Switzerland, but yes, this is interesting to see that people were using social media independently of COVID, but some of them are also, if it's an average, are using more now after COVID to give voice to their opinion.
Good. So next question, again, is a statement. It is extremely important for the city administration to maintain a constant dialogue with the citizen. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, maybe not so important. Let's see. Of course, the key words here are extremely important, as well as the dialogue, because it is not, I think Switzerland is a very, I would say, progressive country in the way it tries to maintain a constant dialogue with the citizens, having a participative democracy. But it's not granted everywhere in the world, right? In many countries, you vote, you elect your representative, and then hopefully they get to do what you expect them to do. But there are not so many dialogue moments. Of course, what we are hinting on here is also the use of social medias and an opportunity in that case to maintain this dialogue also through different channels. Okay,
that would be
that's
interesting
good.
for us to understand what main channel social media people would like to use to stay in contact with the municipality or the city, the government of the city.
I think we have a question on that in a moment. So one more statement here. In 2020, the city administration cannot avoid the use of social media to interact and listen to citizens. So it's kind of a, do city administration have to get engaged through the social medias and use that?
Seems to be very important at the moment.
At least again for the people in this call. And again, it seems like an obvious question, but it's not. City administrations for sure has started to use and speak and interact with citizens more and more through social media, but it's not necessarily, I would say, you know, the mainstream or the comfort zone for dialogue. But it will be interesting to see how COVID has somehow perhaps incentivized this. And we've seen also a little bit the importance of how social media actually do represent the emotions of people. We've seen those emotions in one of the slides earlier, demonstrating that people tend to express their emotions through the social media, and therefore that could also be an important way for city administrations to follow those emotions. One more question here. How would you like to communicate digitally with the government of your city? So here is more of an open question for you, and see what if there are any preferred ways to communicate with the city digitally. Chatbot, that's interesting.
Zoom calls, WhatsApp, emails.
I guess some of these, of course, might refer also to day-to-day services. You know, there are some services that have been digitalized. If I actually go physically, I have a person to ask a question. But if I don't go physically, can I still ask a question? I guess a chatbot would help with that purpose. But it would be interesting to see how I could engage in a Zoom call with somebody if I have a question, or I have a request, or I have a suggestion, perhaps. I can see WhatsApp, Instagram, email, online polls, forum, applications. Yeah. A lot of opportunities here, I would say, for the city administration to engage in many different ways with the citizens.
Yeah.
And I think this is more of a question. I want to make sure it was a question on emotions. Is that sort of the final question about emotions that are dominant right now? Denise, do you have something else to present that we can step into?
Yes, sure. Yes, the conclusion. So we really would like to have the, yes. Okay, let me share.
So I have this question for you. What are the dominant emotions right now for you, as most cities in Europe are going back in some form of lockdown?
Okay, we can see that sadness is probably the main emotion, and I think we could expect. I would not expect to see people happy to be locked down. Maybe some of them, yes. Exhausted, acceptance,
At the same
fear.
time, we remember back in March, the first Italians going outside the balconies and singing songs and getting together and putting hashtag about how it will go together, we will move forward. And probably there is a different type of readiness for this now. That's what I can see here. It's difficult when people were somehow thinking we moving forward, we're getting over this bad thing, and yet here it is back. So do we have the same strength to get together, to use our positive thinking to move forward? Well, it's harder now. And I think it's interesting. I would say I would like to add as a maybe my final thought, as I would like to thank you for taking the challenge of doing this study. Like you have said, as a team, it's been very interesting to scroll through the emotion of the people using the tweets as a tool to monitor the emotions of people, to analyze the emotions of people. And our hope is that, of course, understanding that this methodology can be perfected, can be augmented, can be complemented with even more computing power and computer science, as you have described. But is it something interesting that cities and city administration can think of, and citizens can think of? At the end of the day, cities are made of humans, are made of citizens and their emotions. And we want to make sure that beside the services and the infrastructure that cities provide, there's also somehow a way to interface and communicate with and through the emotions of the people. So that's the hope, that this project will sparkle some ideas in future on how to do this more and better. I leave it over to you, Denise, and the team for any of your final words.
Yeah, I will just share the last two slides, and I can share the screen. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we would like to ask you to stay in touch with us. As you know, Frankly has a social media page, so Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and the blog. If my colleague Christina is gonna share with you in the chat a direct link where you can find our LinkedIn account, we would like to stay in touch with you. And if you have any question, if you would like to know more, the challenges we have gone through, or specifically you have any question about some categories, please feel free to reach out. Here you can find my email address. So please send me an email, and I will be happy to connect you with my colleagues. So thank you very much, everyone, to be part of this emotional journey we all went through. So I wish you a wonderful day, and see you soon.